So, as president, what would you do for our water problem and for our environment? I've got
I'm
almost
intimidated by your telephone.
well because I've got almost 10,000 followers that are watching
Hi.
me right now.
Hi, thanks for following. Look, on water, we have, depending on where you are in the country, you got water quality issues, but there are other places where the big issues are water quantity issues. And I think the most important thing that we need to do, in my view, is protect the watersheds in this country. And that means taking a more comprehensive approach than we've done historically. You guys were talking about that. I mean, there's a reason why we haven't been able to materially affect pollution in from agriculture, for example, in a lot of places, because the regulations and the laws just aren't working well together to do that. So I would work on that. I have I would not say a bias, but a history more with the water quantity side of things because of where I come from, and that's been part of what I've brought to bear on the Agriculture Committee when we've had debates about all kinds of things over the last 10 years that have led to conservation practices that are helping with the water. So that's what I would do. On the environment more broadly, I guess I'd start by answering that from the point of view of climate, which I think is one of the biggest issues that we are contending with or not contending with as Americans. Everywhere I go, people say to me, we need to act urgently on climate change. And I agree with that. We do. People have said this is an existential issue. If we don't deal with it in my generation, the next generation may not be able to deal with it, which makes it different than many of the other issues we face. It drives me crazy that there are poor kids all in America who are not getting a decent education. And I wish we were solving that problem today.
Yes.
We should solve it today, but unfortunately, it'll still be there tomorrow for us to solve. Climate's different from that. It may not be there for us to solve if it gets out of hand. And but I want to add to this for your listeners that that acting urgently isn't enough. We also have to have a durable solution. We need a solution that will endure. And if we accept the politics like the politics we have today in Washington, which is either getting nothing done or getting stuff done for 2 years or 4 years, and then having it ripped out by the other side, we'll never address climate change. You can't fix it 2 years at a time. Right. It's impossible. Right. And on top of what we have to do as a country generationally, we've got to lead the world on climate because it's a global issue, and the U.S. has to be at the lead or it's not going to get done. And so I think one of the things I've tried to do in climate is emphasize the importance of using conservation practices so that we can sequester carbon in the soil and the working lands of the United States. We think about how we can use our agriculture actually as a carbon sink rather than as a cause of climate pollution, and change the political dynamics so that we've got a broader coalition of people that are on it. But I want to stress how important this issue is of making these decisions that will endure it over the long term. When this schoolhouse was built, we weren't even, it was before we signed the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. And the people that did sign the Constitution, their assumption was not that we would agree with each other, it was that we would disagree with each other. And I guarantee you, this schoolhouse that we're in has been in the site of some pretty amazing disagreements over the years as people tried to hash out their disagreements. And what the founders really believed was that out of those disagreements, we would fashion much more imaginative and durable solutions than any king or tyrant could come up with on their own. That was one of the whole points of living in what they called a republic and meeting in rooms like this. We have completely lost the capacity to do that in Washington, D.C. And until we recapture that, our ability to make long-lasting change that will endure from one political cycle to the next political cycle is going to be very challenged. And I want to use your question as an opportunity to say, or to plead with you, not to accept the broken political system that we have as inevitable. Once you do that, once you have accepted it, you've accepted as inevitable our inability to address the environmental concerns you have, the climate concerns you have, the budget concerns that you have, the school education concerns that I have. And If you believe that, if you don't care about that, and I'm not saying anybody here does, but if you don't, or if you think you've been sent to Washington with a cartoon version of the founding fathers in your head that Sarah Palin put there, and you think your whole job has been to be sent there to dismantle the federal government, you don't care about anything that I just said, because you're not there to deal with these regulatory issues. You're not there to deal with climate. You're not there to make sure we've got an education system that works. You're there to dismantle the government. And so once you go down that rabbit hole with, I would say, Mitch McConnell and the Freedom Caucus, they're winning and we're losing. Mm-hmm. And when I say we, I mean people who actually believe there are things we can do together in this still democratic republic to create durable solutions. So sorry for the soapbox, but I figured since we were standing here, which was a pretty good place to have a conversation, that I would say that. And I know the guy from the Historical Society is here probably correct everything that I just said.
No.
Close enough. Close enough. And close enough is close enough. It's good enough for me. We're not supposed to agree with each other. We're supposed to disagree with each other and find an imaginative solution out of it. And if that all sounds philosophical and everything, just think about it in these very simple terms. The worst decisions I ever make, I don't know about you, but the worst decisions I make are the ones I make on my own, at home, without consulting anybody who might have a different vantage point or opinion or point of view. And the ones when I am in a room with people that have lots of different points of view, as long as they're acting in good faith, those are far better decisions than I would ever make on my own. Jimmy Carter probably could make better decisions on his own.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.